It's been years, decades at least, since Nick had been inside his house. He lived here when he was just a kid, with his family, his mom, his siblings, his his dad. Nick had received a call from Tobias, the landlord, telling him that they were finally ready with the repairs. Took them long enough. It's funny, even after what happened and all that time away from home, the house looks just as Nick remembered it to be. Of course, things like the furniture and photos aren't there anymore, but you can blame anyone for that, right? Right. I guess I better use his memory for something useful. He doesn't have the full story, nor does he know why it happened, but I can tell you how it started. Everything else is up to you to figure out. This is the story of the night Nick lost his home, his childhood, and almost his family, when Five Nights at Freddy's just ended. Once there was a family that could be considered happy. Nick was part of it, along with his brothers Anthony and Sam, his mother Val, and his father, Scott. Together, they were the Cawthon family. The patriarch of the family had spent his whole life wishing he could create a video game to make people happy and make a living from it. Scott tried again and again without any success, until on August 8, 2014, he desperately published his last attempt before giving up. Five Nights at Freddy's was born, and with it, a source of livelihood for the Cawthons. After the success of the game, Scott made a sequel, and after that another one, and another one. With the money he earned, he moved with his entire family to a large house near a forest that was said to be haunted by spirits and doppelgangers. Though Scott didn't believe in such things, he just wanted his family to be able to live comfortably in a nice house. With the resounding success of the fourth installment of Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott began to work on the fifth, sister location. Everything was going smoothly. Everything was perfect. Until the day he arrived. That August 8, 2016, the birthday of his beloved creation. Scott and Val are quietly sitting in the living room when they hear a noise in the foyer. They quickly go to see what it is, finding a bruised and burned man lying in the doorway, barely conscious. Making an effort to stay awake, he introduces himself as Michael. At the same time, little Nick butts into the conversation, remarking that the stranger voice and his father's were very similar. The Cawthon couple decides to let Mike spend the night at their home. After putting Nick back to bed, Val and Scott return to the living room, where they discuss whether it was a good idea to let the strangers live near their children. Scott, concerned about it, decides to go check on Sam, Anthony, and Nick, leaving Val alone in the living room, unaware that five shadows are stalking them in the dark. Metallic figures of a bear, a rabbit, a chicken, and a fox invaded the Cawthon home. They invaded it to bathe it in blood. Val doesn't understand what's happening, why these creatures that her husband had created are attacking them. It's then that Michael calls her and begins to explain how to evade the animatronics. Val is puzzled. She doesn't understand anything. Then, Michael asks her about Scott's whereabouts, to which she replies, How do you know my husband's name? Since they had never told him their names. Silence pervades the room. Val never got an answer. While all this was going on, Scott was on his way to his children's room when he suddenly heard a scream coming from Nick's room, who was also trying to survive the monsters that were ravaging his home. Scott tries to make his way to his son's room when his head begins to pound, putting him into a state of shock that causes him to hallucinate. He convinces himself that what he sees is not real, but all this confidence collapses when he sees a figure that is certainly familiar, but demolish it and burn it. The figure of Freddy Fazbear. Scott reacts in time before the robot throws a killing blow at him. He begins to run as Freddy chases him, but the corridors of his home warp into a sort of infinite maze with no destination other than his office, the place where Five Nights at Freddy's was conceived. Once there, he finds a note from his sons Anthony and Sam that says they have taken refuge in the basement. But what about Val and Nick? Are they safe? Dozens of questions cross Scott's mind, but in order to answer them, he must find the exact moment to leave his office, or else he will die at the hands of his creations. But despite his determination, he completely loses track of time. For him, seconds turn into minutes, minutes into hours, hours into days. He's not sure whether he's still hallucinating or what he sees is real. The only thing that keeps him sane in the face of the fact that his own creations are trying to kill him is the fact that he must go rescue his family. After a long time, he finally makes it into the basement, where a monitor is projecting the faces of his creations. He confronts them, but is knocked out by Michael, leaving him unconscious. When he wakes up, he finds himself handcuffed in his attic and receives a call from Michael. Scott wants answers. If he's going to die, at least he wants to know why. Michael explains to him that the animatronics had been suffering for a long time for being what they are, that they hadn't asked to be monsters. So they wanted to finish Scott off so they would stop suffering. The four ignited, Freddy, Bonnie, Chick and Foxy, had merged into an animatronic amalgamation called Creation in order to kill together the one who had caused them so much pain. After this, Michael thanks Scott. The experience of having lived has been incredible, but to continue living and have a life of his own, Scott must die. Michael didn't care whether he lived or not. He just wanted to continue feeling the vitality of existing as a living, thinking being. Scott didn't understand why he was thanking him. Who is this Michael? But then, it dawned on him. The appearance, the voice, what he knew about animatronics. It was Mike Smith. He was just another creation like the robots. But he wasn't like them. He was something more human-like. The problem was that the animatronics needed him, since due to their nature, they couldn't attack anyone directly. So they forced Michael to help them, to open the path directly to their creator. His creator. So that's what he did. After listening to Mike's speech, Scott managed to free himself from one hand in order to keep creation at bay. But without warning, the boiler in the house explodes, setting the Cawthon home on fire. This is the reason Nick lost his home, his childhood, and almost his family. This makes it impossible for creation to kill Scott. So Michael, seeing that this is his chance to get what he really wants, takes the upper hand. He is not a monster like the others. He wants to be human. Mike finds Scott lying on the ground, since he's a man who has given everything to survive. But he's not gonna make it. The only thing he can do is ask for his family to live in peace and safety. Michael grabs him, looks him deep in the eyes, and absorbs him to become Scott Cawthon himself. From the burning house, where the animatronics are being consumed by fire, but not set free, a man who looks like Scott emerges from it, but is not Scott himself. Val and the children have been in the garden waiting for their husband and father all this time. The note in the office was nothing more than Michael's doing. Val babbles things about the house, the fire, Michael and more, but the man before her just answers the same phrase over and over again.
You are safe now. That's all that matters.
Honey, are you
You are safe now. That's all that matters.
Daddy, no!
You are
Oh my
safe.
god, oh my god!
That's all that matters. You are safe
God.
now. That's all that matters. You are safe now. That's all that matters. You are safe now. That's all that matters.
The Cawthon family is scared. They don't understand what is happening to Scott. But he keeps repeating the same thing over and over again. Inside that body, it is as if Michael is telling what little was left of Scott.
See, they're safe now, just as you wanted. Thank you for your cooperation, Scott Cawthon. I'll take care of everything from here.
Eight days later, on August 16, 2016, Michael and Scott canceled the development of Five Nights at Freddy's sister location to prevent the suffering of more miserable monsters. Following this, Michael embarked on a criminal career of arson, which culminated in his arrest. But before he could be brought to trial, he vanished, never to be seen again, abandoning Scott Cawthon's already fractured family. Many years have passed since then, bringing us back to where we started. Nick has returned at home, but why? It's like something or someone that Michael couldn't get rid of has been calling Nick. It is like if a golden shadow had been saying, "Come back to us, Nick." The now grown-up man went into his old house to never be seen alive again.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like and a comment. Also, check out my social media down in the description. See you on the flip side!